Hey, today we are going to be starting the first video in my Ernest Hemingway series, and we're going to start with his first novel, kind of. His first novel, I'll get into that in a second. The Sun Also Rises, also known as Fiesta, if you are in the UK. So this novel was published in 1926 by Scribners. Anyway, Hemingway started writing it in July of 1925, after his birthday and a trip to Spain, which the book's based on kind of real life events and people. He started writing it on his birthday, finished about 2 months later, then set the manuscript aside, started revising it in early 1926, and then it was published in America in 1926. About a year later, a publisher in England published it with the title Fiesta, which is why there's that slight difference now. If you look, some English publishers will still publish it under the title Fiesta, The Sun Also Rises, or Fiesta, and then all the American ones are The Sun Also Rises. Let's see. The novel is based on real people in Hemingway's life, and he really did go to Spain, like I think on a honeymoon, and went to a bullfighting fiesta. The novel's famous because in it, Hemingway presents his notion of the lost generation, who were considered to have been decadent, dissolute, and irretrievably damaged by World War I. But he portrayed them as resilient and strong. Throughout the novel, Hemingway also investigates the theme of love, death, and renewal in nature, and also masculinity. What's interesting, and why I said this is kind of his first novel, is that Hemingway had a deal in place already with the Boney and Liverite Publishing Company, and it was for 3 books, and he didn't want to publish with them. So what he did is he wrote The Torrents of Spring, which is a satirical novel, which is directed at attacking Sherwood Anderson, who was a fellow author with that publishing company and was more profitable. And because the contract stated that if the publishing company rejected any of Hemingway's work, his contract would be void, they rejected this, obviously, and he was free to go and sign with Scribners, who agreed to publish The Torrents of Spring along with anything else he did. So I have that as well, and we'll be reviewing that. I'll probably be next, it'll be the next video in this series. It's kind of funny. So when he published this book, reviews were kind of split. They were mixed. You had critics who praised Hemingway's Spartan style with words like clean narrative or clean prose, athletic, hard-boiled. And then you had critics who really thought the characters were vapid and uninteresting, and that the novel itself was unimportant. His own family actually really didn't appreciate the novel, really didn't like it. His own mother was shamed out of going to her book club kind of deal, because there was profane and whatever, and she wrote him to let him know that she didn't approve. Now, this novel has managed to remain a part of the canon, because it is often considered Hemingway's best work, and it arguably is. Usually when you think of Hemingway, he has about 10 novels, and the ones people talk about are generally The Sun Also Rises, The Old Man in the Sea, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and A Farewell to Arms. So 4 out of the 10 are. And I would say you're more likely to run into The Sun Also Rises or The Old Man in the Sea than you are For Whom the Bell Tolls or Farewell to Arms. But anyway, back to this book. Part of the reason why it's managed to stay in the canon was, one, it exemplifies the lost generation at that time in one of the clearest snapshots of a time. Also, the writing style. Hemingway did a lot to change the writing, the way people wrote from then on. I had a professor once who made the claim that every American male writer could not help but be influenced by Hemingway, whether they acknowledge it or not. So I mean, he was kind of a big deal. He was like a celebrity in his own time, very popular. Now, this novel has also drawn heat from the very beginning, but also as it ages with the way the character Robert Cohn is characterized, in that he's a Jewish man, and some people, because it's there, see the way he's portrayed as Semitic. Sorry, I totally just blanked out. But which is a valid criticism. And now I'm just going to talk about kind of my opinion of the book. The way Robert Cohn is displayed, the fact that he is a Jew, is kind of brought to the forefront. He doesn't really let you forget it. And I don't know. And he is definitely kind of like the most messed up character of everybody. So it is a problem. It is problematic. I still really enjoy this book a lot. I think it's great. I mean, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's a masterpiece. And I think there's a lot of older literature that can be problematic for the way it deals with gender and race. And I don't think that discredits the whole work, but it makes it's okay to question it as well. So I'm going to read you the very beginning, the first passage out of the book, and this will both illustrate the anti-Semitism, and it's a good example of Hemingway's prose, especially in this book. Okay. Robert Cohn was once middleweight boxing champion of Princeton. Do not think that I am very much impressed by that as a boxing title, but it meant a lot to Cohn. He cared nothing for boxing. In fact, he disliked it. But he learned it painfully and thoroughly to counteract the feeling of inferiority and shyness he had felt on being treated as a Jew at Princeton. There was a certain inner comfort in knowing he could knock down anybody who was snooty to him. Although, being very shy and a thoroughly nice boy, he never fought except in the gym. He was Spider Kelly's star pupil. Spider Kelly taught all his young gentlemen to box like featherweights, no matter whether they weighed 105 or 205 pounds. But it seemed to fit Cohn. He was really very fast. He was so good that Spider promptly overmatched him and got his nose permanently flattened. This increased Cohn's distaste for boxing, but it gave him a certain satisfaction of some strange sort, and it certainly improved his nose. So anyway, that's a good example of Hemingway's prose as well as the problematic aspect of this novel. I mean, some people would say gender, but I would argue that. So anyway, that is The Sun Also Rises. If you have any questions or comments, or you have ideas, again, I think this book's a masterpiece. And in this series, I'm going to do it a little differently than my normal reviews. I'm going to rank Hemingway against himself, not necessarily against everyone else. As well, I'll give you the rating. So I think this is the best written Hemingway novel. Although it's my second favorite. But I also think this is a masterpiece of literature and is a 5-star novel on its own. So anyway, that concludes The Sun Also Rises. Thank you guys for watching. Again, any comments, just comment below. Any questions, anything, feel free to chime in. I would love to hear from you guys. Alright, see you later.